Administrator Martin. I think he does a wonderful job, but I think we've all shared that there's some more succinct reporting would be helpful. So that was when I said that it would be helpful if we had a more succinct report.
Right. Is there a motion to accept the amendment?
So the amendment is basically to reflect the actual words spoken by Mr. LaVoy.
Or at least a much more accurate representation.
Okay, well, we can look at the recording and
Yeah.
that can be addressed.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely was what Tim said.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we'll look at the actual recording and make the minutes reflect the actual words.
Sure, I would be fine with that.
That's a fair thing.
Yeah.
All right. I make a motion that we accept the amendment as presented by Mr. LaVoy.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there
Opposition?
that the consent agenda as amended has been approved? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to miss it.
So we need to vote on the motion to accept the consent agenda, right?
Right.
So we just,
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
well, we already have that motion. We just need to vote.
Okay, that's what I thought we just voted on. That's
We
what I
did.
just
We
said.
voted on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
Sorry to
audience
say.
of citizens.
Doesn't look like there's any at this time.
So now who's on first? Portland Public Schools Spotlight, Physical Development and Health at Valley View School.
All right, so can we unmute if Chris Serra is here and Jessica Bruin? Hi, Jessica.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the Gildersleeve Grant Committee, the Board of Education, our Playground Committee, Charles, Stephanie, Carl, Sal, everyone who's helped make this grant possible. We are beyond thrilled to have a playscape for our youngest learners. I was in a meeting the other day, and the teacher was talking to the parents about how much growth their child made during recess. Now, this is a student with limited mobility and communication skills. She would go outside and play on a mat. She'd have some toys, and yes, there would be some social interaction. However, everything changed once the playscape was available. She's now moving and grooving, working on her motor skills, laughing, so excited to be out at recess. Immersed in language and peer interactions, her experience completely changed during recess. And it was all because of a simple playscape. Play is such an integral part of our early learners' development. And this is why it's written into the Connecticut Early Learning and Development Standards, because it is necessary. So many times people argue if play is educational, and I can tell you without a doubt it is. Just look at the difference it's making in this one child, not to mention everybody else. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for supporting the playscape and helping us make it a reality. Mr. Sarah is here, our physical education teacher, and he's going to talk a little bit about why it's important to our early learning physical development.
Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so obviously everyone knows that fitness is a lifelong skill and activity that promotes cardiovascular endurance, blood flow, oxygen flow, but having a playground at the pre-K to 1 level is vital for motor development, which mirrors cognitive development due to the neuron connection and the synapses that are happening with the brain and the spinal cord. You have hand-eye coordination occurring, you have spatial awareness, you have development and formation of the gray matter by those synapses that are happening so quickly due to the balance and the decision-making that the students are partaking in. The activity activates the cerebellum, which benefits students with autism as well. because students with autism have gross motor delays, and that also can lead to social emotional issues and language disabilities. Activity on the playground provides students with real life experiences. You talk about social emotional learning, you have social interaction occurring, you have problem solving individually and as a group. I mean, some of the conversations are pretty comical, but they're happening, and that they're definitely creating those intellectual and cognitive stimulation that equates to that motor development. There's teamwork, as well as understanding the differences going on. We also promote at Valley Blue at recess to have conflict resolution. You know, obviously the adults intervene, but these students are having those opportunities on the playscape, you know, doing the monkey bars, and how are we gonna get across? And you have students helping each other get across the monkey bars. Obviously I'm in a different situation where I have a top-down view. I've been in every school now in Portland Public Schools, and being at the high school last year and the previous 6 years as the athletic director, we have a lot of student athletes and students that come up lacking motor skills, basic motor skills. And having these type of equipment pieces available in our district at a young age is vital for our athletes and our community. It's very important that these students understand that, and that's what we're working on at the Valley Blue level is not only the motor development, but the skills. Right? It's not just playing games and tag, but we're working on balancing. We're working on all the basic locomotive movements that equate to the gray matter development in the brain and those quick neuron synapses that happen, which will increase students' ability to make proper decisions in terms of conflict resolution and, you know, understanding differences. You know, it's vital that from the young level to the high school level, that continues to occur. And I know our phys ed teachers do it, but what would be awesome is if we see fitness equipment at every school, some type of fitness equipment, so maybe a ropes course at the high school, or some type of continuation of this work that Principal Bruin has done for the grant.
So just to let everyone know, we are getting a fence put in shortly, which is really exciting. And we are working with the playground committee to add a few pieces of equipment around some sensory needs that we have. So yeah, we're really excited about having this opportunity for our students. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Any questions?
No? Good. I think it's wonderful. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the report.
Yeah, the playground looks wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
So cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Student representative report?
Okay, I can start tonight.
Hello.
Okay. Hi everyone, good to see you all. Last Friday was our senior trip, and students went to Boston to go on a duck tour and then check out Quincy Market for lunch. And then towards the evening, we went to Six Flags to have some late night fun. And overall, the trip was pretty successful. It was fun. And then on the note of success, our fall sports teams have been doing really well this season, and they're definitely like making Portland known as a strong competitor in the Shoreline. So that's been pretty exciting as the fall sports seasons wrap up. And that's all I have.
Great.
So the juniors took the PSAT last Wednesday. That included the math and the reading portion. Freshmen will be taking the PSAT on Tuesday the 26th. And the juniors and seniors have started college visits through the school and Naviance. These visits are on Zoom this year, but they will be taking place in the library. And this is giving students an inside look at various colleges around the country. And it shows them the different academic programs and experiences as well. And the flex periods are still going very well. A lot of students have been taking the opportunity to use it as a study hall. They're playing games during it and even going to cook in the culinary room. I have heard from multiple students that they enjoy this new schedule because it gives them a much needed break in their day.
Great. Thank you both. Anybody have any questions? No? All right. Communication and updates. Dr. Britt.
All right, I have two pretty exciting ones that I want to share with you. First, as you know, coming up on November 2nd is Election Day, which is exciting in and of itself. All of you who are running for re-election, I wish you luck. On that day, we are going to have our professional development, and I shared with you the agenda for that. And I just wanted to go over it with you and point it out because it reflects some pretty, I think, important changes that we're about to make in the district here in the name of school security and safety. So, you know, our number one goal this year is the health and safety of all of our students and faculty and staff. And while that goal starts with COVID-related measures, you know, things we need to do to continue to, you know, keep our students healthy, it also reflects some initiatives and some goals that we have to improve the security footprint here in the district. So for the past 2 years, we've been doing some research, and I've been working with a group of people, including our school security guard, our Judas, local law enforcement, and our safety committee to investigate current research and best practices in the area of school security. And there, we have our current protocol that we use, but we don't believe that that one matches what current research and best practices say. So we went out and we investigated 3 others. We looked at one called the Alice model. We looked at one called the Connecticut State Police model, and then we looked at the Middletown Police model, right? All 3 of those are relatively similar. I think the Alice is more national. Obviously, Connecticut State Police is statewide, and Middletown is relevant to Middletown. After researching all 3 of these models, we decided that we would adopt the Middletown model. And the reason for that is that it makes the most sense that we have a cooperative exchange of forces agreement with Middletown, and that if anything were to go bad in our schools, the Middletown police would be responding over the bridge and likely arriving as quickly as the Portland police. So we developed a relationship with a gentleman who I just can't say enough good things about. His name is Detective William Porter. If you ever have a chance to meet him, please look him in the eye and say thank you on behalf of the Portland Public Schools. He came in and he did a remarkable full security audit with us and spent countless hours training us, by us I mean the leadership team, in the response model that they use in all of the Middletown public schools, and helping us deepen our understanding of what those protocols are and how we should implement them. So the administrative team, we've all been trained. We've met with Detective Porter twice now. He has reviewed the protocol with us, and we now understand it well enough that we're prepared to transition to it in the district. So in the morning on November 2nd, Detective Porter is going to be here with us. He's going to meet with the entire certified faculty in the district and introduce the entire district to the Middletown response model. We're then going to get to the paraprofessionals, coaches, custodians, bus drivers, and everybody else, and make sure that they too are comfortable with the Middletown response model. That's all going to happen in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we're going to introduce our faculty to a new, essentially an app is how I describe it. It's called Navigate 360. What this will empower everybody in the district to do is report in real time any instances of school security threats, right? So part of the issue that we have in the district, and I don't think this is uncommon in many other districts, is that, say for example, somebody is pulling into the parking lot at 6:30 in the morning and observes a threat, right? Well, by the time they call 911, alert the main office if somebody's there, and first responders are on the way, likely 15, 20 minutes have elapsed since observing that threat and being able to report it. With this app, our entire faculty and staff, if they observe a threat, will be able to report it in real time, and everybody in district who has that app on their phone will get an immediate report of when that's happening, and that app is going to be on the phones of all of the Portland police officers. What that will do is it will cut down the response time of any first responders. Likely, they'll get that Navigate report quicker than their radios will start crackling with 911 dispatch. Navigate will also help us take attendance and account for our students, and will also give us access to all of the emergency response protocols, phone numbers, and things that we need to respond in an emergency. So I see it as a very important day. It's certainly not something we're going to adopt and it's going to be done immediately. It's going to take us a long time to practice with the Middletown response model, practice with Navigate 360, run the drills, run the tabletop activities, and make sure that all of our teachers and administrators understand it. And then from there, we have to also bring it to our paraprofessionals and our secretaries and our custodians and our coaches and our food services workers and our bus drivers. So I see November 2nd as the start of what will likely be a multi-year process to make sure that our security practices and protocols reflect research best practices and equip everybody with the tools that they need to help keep us and our students safe. But I would share that with you. It's pretty exciting stuff. Certainly reflects our #1 goal in the district as we adopted it. And I look forward to reporting back on you on how it goes and how our follow-up efforts are.
Okay, I have a question.
Of course.
Lockdowns, fire drills, lockdowns, fire drills, any emergency, crisis, kinds of things. Is that what is going to be run on the, as you said, the tabletop?
Medical emergencies, weather alerts, tornadoes, floods, any type of crisis can be responded to with Navigate, if it's certainly if it's happening during the school day.
Okay.
And that includes lockdowns, shelter in place, secure the perimeter. Lockdown would be, of course, we need to shut the shades and lock our doors, and that would largely be a response to a hostile intruder.
Right.
Stay put would be if we ever had a medical emergency in the building and we need students to clear the hallway so we can respond to a medical emergency. And secure the perimeter would be if there are any threats outside of the school, us bringing our students in to contain the situation and allow first responders and law enforcement to respond outside of the school.
Okay.
Those are the 3 big ones.
Yep.
Nested within each of those are all types of different scenarios that may occur, all types of medical emergencies or threats outside or within the school. But definitely those are going to be what we drill on, what we practice, and make sure that we're prepared to respond.
Are we also thinking about cell phones for key people in this process, rather than having them use their own personal phones?
Not right now.
Not right now, but
it's an app that will encourage everybody to put on their phone.
Okay.
If people choose not to put it on their phone, then there's a web-based component to it.
There is, okay.
It's just that having it on your phone gives you instant access, as opposed to if you choose not to have it on your phone, we activate an alert. The only way you would know that that alert is happening is by going on your desktop.
On your desktop, okay.
Certainly we can't require people to put it on their phones, but at this point I think we're all very comfortable with cell phone technology. I see them around the table right now. They're omnipresent. Everybody uses them. And certainly if it's a way that we can help keep people safe, why wouldn't you choose to?
Okay, all right.
That's how I'm going to frame it.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Charles.
Is this something that's going to be available to parents?
No.
So it's just in the school, and in terms of if there's any incident that occurs that requires a notification, that's going to go out the
Correct.
Same way it does currently?
Correct. School messenger, voicemail, email, text, the way we communicate now. The Navigate 360 would only be, put it this way, for anybody who gets a check from the Portland Board of Education or one of our vendors. We certainly wouldn't want to give parents, students, and other people the ability to lock us down. That could likely cause some disruptions, but I would say anybody who we can hold accountable, we also want to empower with the ability, if they identify a threat, to report it in real time.
Okay, and just another comment, I know there is software for students and parents for reporting things that are of concern, and I know at some point we had a conversation, or it was mentioned, has that also been looked at in terms of,
Yes.
because you cannot survey the social media landscape in any number of ways to determine that it might be a threat.
I'm really glad you asked that question, and I should have mentioned it. Navigate also has nested within it the Sandy Hook Promise, or Sandy Hook anonymous reporting system.
Okay.
Literally, we just started, well, I should say, Chuck Hirschon really led us in this, and found a way for now students and parents to be able to anonymously report issues of bullying or harassment or any other concerns.
Okay.
Just today, he launched it, and we're starting to get comfortable with it. I'd love to invite him to a future board meeting, and I know he'd love to come and tell you about it.
Thank
But interestingly enough, it's free, and it has a relationship with the Navigate
With the
software.
Navigate, okay, perfect. Well, that covers all of the stakeholders that could have a concern or would be
Correct.
reporting something. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, so more to come on that. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Next one, I'm really excited to announce. So let me bring you back to last year's budget development cycle. If you'll remember, we needed to upgrade our inventory of Chromebooks, right? So Eric presented to you, and we included in our budget a leasing option to acquire 500 new Chromebooks. We brought that forward as part of our capital request, and the town agreed to it. It was passed as part of the budget, and we acquired 500 new Chromebooks this year, which are now in the hands of our high school students, as part of a lease, right? So that lease in total was about $220,000. Stephanie, was it 220 or 240?
300.
It was 300. Okay, thank you. So the 240 number is ringing in my mind for a different reason. So around the end of August, we received notification that the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, as part of the emergency federal relief, was offering grants called the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And we could apply for these grants if we were going to use the funding for, amongst other things, equip students with Chromebooks. In the context of a pandemic, we all know how essential Chromebooks have become in our lives. So we applied for it. I worked with Stephanie and Tom and Eric and our E-rate consultant. Her name is Karen Pavon, and we put in a grant request for $240,000 to get that essentially lease covered. Right? I remember I mentioned this at a board meeting once.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very excited to tell you that last week we were informed that we got $169,480.
Great.
So that is a straight reimbursement for the grant. So technically, the way I would see it, in fairness, that goes back to the capital budget, right? Because that's where we're reimbursing it from. We don't have to use it to buy more Chromebooks. It's a reimbursement for money we've already spent for the Chromebooks. At this point, Stephanie, Tom, and I are talking about how we want to allocate those funds. I'm going to be coming to you shortly with a plan. We all know that there is no lack of capital projects in this district that we need.
Yep.
Certainly right at the top of the list is the track.
Yep.
Yes.
So
Read my mind.
that conversation has started with Tom and the town and Stephanie. We do have to, make sure that there aren't any strings attached to this funding. We do have to work with Tom to make sure that we can allocate it the right way. But we also know that we're gonna need additional Chromebooks, right? So 500 got us started, but it's not all we need. To that end, we just found out that there is Emergency Connectivity Grant 2.
Great.
And Eric and Karen Pavon just worked to put in additional $80,000 to purchase additional Chromebooks. So stay tuned. It's good news. We just received this commitment, $169,480. I included that grant award or reimbursement award letter in there. I'll be coming to you after I spend some time with Stephanie and Tom and Carl and Eric. Likely we'll wrap this in as part of the budget development process, and I think come forward with some good ideas. Hopefully, that will lead to some sorely needed improvements in the district, including at the top of my mind is a game plan for how we get the track fixed.
Excellent.
Stay tuned.
Great.
Bravo. Thank you, Charles.
Yep. Okay.
That's fantastic.
That's all I have.
Okay. Director of Student Services report.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can. Good evening.
Okay, great. So, things are really cruising in student services. We're very busy and lots of good information to report. Our numbers are pretty stable compared to last month, no major changes. One number I always do point out, and I just want to point out, we're down to 8 outplacements for our students, which is a nice number to be looking at. Our EL students
are at 45 for the district, and that includes 3 newcomers. And I just wanted to point out, first of all, I want to shout out to our EL teacher, Lizette Restrepo. She's doing a beautiful job working with students across all 5 schools. But those newcomer students are students that by law should be being seen once a day for EL services. And so she is really, she's wearing her running shoes, and she's getting around all over the place to make sure she sees all 3 of those students on a daily basis, as well as the other 42 students. So that's a really a busy department that we're looking at. Our mental health team is working really nicely still with Mari Wrightington. They're meeting with her once a month to continue working on professional development. So, we're really excited to see what they're coming up with. All of our administrators and case managers for special education are beginning to sign up and getting ready to take part in the IEP quality training series that's being offered by the state. Training actually doesn't start until after January, but in order to get everybody onboarded, it opened up just last week. That is the first step in the new CT SEDS integration for all of our special ed teachers. If you remember from last month, we spoke about that. That is the new platform and the new system that the state is rolling out. It includes a whole new IEP form. So everything, if you have need to look at a student's IEP, perhaps a child or grandchild of yours, or somebody that you may know, the form will look different across the state next year. And we'll begin training with that information and filling and how to write good quality IEPs based upon our skill set now, and adding to it with this training from the state. And then moving forward after July 1st, working in the actual platform CT SEDS itself. And that's a lot of early work has to take place on the part of many of our staff and our faculty, getting ready for all of those pieces. So that's really exciting news. Another place that we have to think about is all of that data. Because remember, when we tied in with Frontline or with IEP Direct a couple of years before I came here, it took all of our special ed information and put it into the platform, into what started out being called IEP Direct, became Frontline IEP, and now is going to have to get transferred or uploaded into the new CT SEDS platform in order to keep a full virtual presence. For example, Nancy Bakos in my office is helping lead the charge, and she's taking part in weekly work with the state to learn how to get us all ready for that data transfer to take place after July 1. So lots of busy stuff. I'll continue to update you once a month on that, just to keep everybody apprised of what's going on with our special ed staff in that area. And that's across all 5 schools from age 3 all the way up to age 22. And we're very busy in that area. Last month we spoke about the health office and just really the wonderful work that all of our nurses have been doing to help not just keeping our kids safe and healthy at school, but the extra hours work with contact tracing and keeping families apprised of what's going on because of COVID. We did lose a nurse last month. Katie Williams left us to go to another school district, and we were lucky enough to attract Karen Redditch, who is our new school nurse for Valley View, and she began this week, and she's been orientating and learning all about her new role. So if you have need to be at Valley View, make sure you stop and say hello. And that is all I have for my update. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I do. For the English language learners, I can't remember, is our staff member, is she full-time?
No.
No.
No, she's a 0.5 FTE.
Poof. And with, you said 42 kids? 45.
45.
3 of them being brand new that she has to see daily. What does her day look like? And when do we need to be talking about either increasing her hours or adding staff?
I've continued to meet with her on a regular basis to talk about her caseload and how feasible it is to be, meeting the needs of all of her caseload. And she works half days. She works 5 days a week, so she's able to see her see her newcomers that she has to see every day of the week. Remember that even though a student might be an EL student, they're rated on a scale of 1 to 4, from 1 being very basic to 4 being just below mastery. And even though she has met several children that are in that 1 range, including those 3 newcomers, she also has a lot of kids that are that 3 and 4 that are not requiring as much intervention by her. It's more the just still they're making really good progress towards meeting mastery on the lost links. So we have talked about whether we're going to have to add for next year, and as you know, as Dr. Britton just spoke about the budget and how we're getting ready to build the budget for next year, we may have to think about that for next year to build in more time. In the meantime, Lizette really schedules herself carefully to make sure, you know, she's not running, she tries to make it so she's in certain buildings certain days of the week, and in order to make sure that she can spend the least amount of time traveling. She has a home base in Gildersleeve, which is where the predominance of her students are, and she shares a classroom with the reading specialist, and it's just a beautiful, welcoming place that she has set up. And then but she also spends, you know, a week at Valley View, and same thing with Brownstone. The students at the middle school and high school level it's a very small amount. So, but to answer your question fully, we're not positive when we're gonna have to increase. I would suspect that we would look at increasing, maybe not to a full 1.0, but maybe to a 0.7 for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll continue to have those conversations with the data with Dr. Britton.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, new business, we have a leave of absence request.
All right, so I included in there a leave of absence request from Christina Mazzi. I certainly support the request and hope she is successful in her ongoing battle. We wish her very well.
Yes, we do. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the leave of absence for Christine Mazzi with sadness and with hope that she'll recover and join us again.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Good. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All the best. Okay, enrollment study.
All right, thank you. So, as you know, our enrollment is a very important factor in determining how we allocate resources, how many teachers we need, class sizes. It's also a very important data point in the work of our facility study committee as we consider future needs for the district. So we've been talking about an enrollment study. Now, I already have one done. It's from NESDEC, right? So we're a member of NESDEC, and as part of our association dues and affiliations with that, they give us this enrollment report. The only way I can describe this report is it's based on a cohort morbidity, right? It's not an actual study of Portland. We just give them our enrollment numbers, and they run it through an algorithm, and they match in some federal data from HUD and from birth rates nationally.
Yeah.
So it's not the most accurate, detailed study of Portland and specifically. They just have a mathematical equation that they plug our numbers into and can give us a sense of what they project our numbers might be without really understanding housing starts or birth rates specific to Portland. So it's kind of like a 50,000-foot view. So I thought I would share that with you. Based on their projections, we're going to hover right for the next 10 years right around 1,200 students, not including pre-K. Okay. We, though, need, I think, a more close look at Portland specifically. So there's one firm, McClune, and I always forget the name of it. Stephanie, help me, please.
Malone and McBroom.
Malone and McBroom, thank you. That is well known in the state for doing these. I am going to reach out to them before the end of the week and see how much they would charge. But there's another gentleman in the state, his name is Peter Prouda, who has a reputation, used to work for the State Department and does enrollment studies. I did get a proposal from him. I included it with the new business report, and I included a sample of the report he does for the Brantford Public Schools. he will invest certainly the time to give us I think, a real deeper look. And he's charging $2,300, so certainly it's not gonna break the bank. I think it's something I'm comfortable going forward with. But I am gonna reach out to this other firm first. You know, if they're inexpensive, we may wanna look at 3 data sources, right? Get a better sense. Otherwise, I am likely gonna ask Mr. Prouda to do this enrollment study for us. It will inform the work of the board and certainly inform the work of our facility study committee. Once I sign this contract, unless anybody objects, which I will likely do tomorrow, he should have this done for us by December.
Are you gonna get the information from the other provider by
Yeah, I will.
tomorrow?
I'll reach out tomorrow and check.
Are you saying you would do potentially both providers or one or the other?
You know, it's one of those things that I'm actually open to the idea of having multiple ones done. Because we don't, as you know, the history of Portland would tell us that if you make mistakes with your enrollment projections, you can find yourselves in hot water. So we're not going to repeat that mistake. So it might be a worthwhile investment to have several groups do this for us so that, maybe we take the average.
Let history be our guide.
Look at the trends.
Right. We're going to be really careful about this before, we report this along with any requests for state reimbursement.
So how is this gonna get paid for?
Stephanie and I can find the $2,300 we have budgeted in ESS ER3. Right, so as you know, as part of the federal grant that we have, we earmarked $200,000 out of that for the work of this facility study committee. You're going to hear me talk about the RFP momentarily. So this would come out of that. It falls into the bucket under the guidelines of improving indoor air quality. Certainly, an enrollment study wouldn't improve indoor air quality, but would contribute to a process that would hopefully lead to improved indoor air quality. That's how we wrote it in the grant, and the grant was approved.
Including specifically the enrollment study?
Correct. Enrollment and ed spec analysis.
Okay. Do you recall how much you included in the grant application for that work to be done?
We did 200 to cover all of it.
200,000.
So you didn't break it down?
We didn't break it down.
Okay.
I would like to add that when you sign the contract for Peter Prouda, that we also include the PowerPoint presentation and at least 1 or 2 presentations by Peter Prouda to explain his data to the Board of Education and or the Board of Selectmen at the same time.
You mean the facilities committee?
Well, the facilities committee will get the information, but I think the presentation would be a wider meeting between the Board of Ed, which would like this information for our own future planning, as well as the Board of Selectmen, which has commissioned the facilities study committee, correct?
I think that's a good idea, Meg.
Yeah, and so I think we should include that, so that he can explain where he got his information from.
So is that a motion that we would not have it?
I haven't made a motion, no,
Oh, you have?
I haven't made a motion yet. I just am suggesting that if we sign the contract for $2,300, that we also include the $300 for the PowerPoint and at least 1 presentation of the data at $180 per hour.
And then it'll be determined later to who. No, I know, I've read it. I read it, I understand. I'm just trying to, because you said we're saying about multiple presentations, but now you're saying 1 presentation.
Well, we're talking about the one that Peter Prouda would do for us, that Charles would contract with tomorrow, would sign the
For who?
contract.
Joint session of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education.
Joint session?
I thought it would go to.
I'm trying to understand, because.
Right.
Well,
we said 2
I think
different
I think that has to be determined, but I think that we would want at least 1, if not 2 presentations. One would be made to the facilities committee that's studying
Right.
and needs the information. The other
Sure.
presentation would be
To
made
us.
to a Board of Ed and joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, but that's a suggestion. That's not, I'm not making a motion that we are, doing that. That's just my suggestion that we do that.
And can that be handled separate from the proposal, Charles, as you
Yeah,
read
so
this?
from what
It
I
appears to me
understand
it
is that the $2,300 will get us a report similar to the one you see from Branford Public Schools in the folder there.
Yep.
I believe the number is $480. For $480, Peter Prouda will put together a PowerPoint and come present his data to us. So
Right.
for each time he does it, it's $480. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I think I hear Meg saying is have Peter come, pay him the additional $480, make a presentation to the Board of Education and the Facility Study Committee concurrently.
Right.
That's at the same time.
At the same
Yep.
time.
That's a great
That
idea.
would make sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Worthwhile investment of less than $3,000.
I think so, I completely agree.
Are you looking for a motion on this, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful that, I
So-
get everybody on record that this is what we want to do.
So I would make a motion that we accept this enrollment projection contract with Peter Prouda for the data for the facility study, the district-wide enrollment projection study.
I'm happy to second that.
Laura, any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Thank you.
RFP, RFQ for architectural services.
Okay, I'll try to be quick on this one. Thank God we have somebody here named Stephanie Fergola, who is one of the smartest business managers I've ever worked with, and she's just great in every way. I want to start there. So what Stephanie was doing in her free time was reading all of the statutes about bonding reimbursement rates, because this is what Stephanie does, right? And she comes to me and she says to me, Charles, I'm reading over and over in these statutes here that OPMs aren't reimbursable by the state. And I said, I understand that. We're not asking for any money from the state. We just want an expert to help guide the work of our facility study committee. We need a consultant to help us because a lot of this is clearly outside of my expertise or other people's, right? I mean, we want somebody at the table with us to help guide these discussions, and we earmarked this $200,000 for this kind of work. And she says, yeah, but something in the back of my mind tells me that the state doesn't like OPMs, right? Maybe we should call them and ask them about this. And I said, okay, let's do it. So Stephanie set up a meeting for us to speak with the folks at the state. And it was an incredibly valuable and insightful conversation. Thank you, Stephanie. The advice they gave us is that it's not an OPM that we need, it's an architecture firm. So they recommended that an architecture firm would be able to provide the level of expertise and guidance that an OPM would, and then provide additional services with, how did they describe it? More, different levels of qualifications.
Right. Less clipboard, more
Yeah,
on the ground.
they like people that do the work, not carry clipboards, something like that. I don't know the exact quote. But in any event, we clearly want to keep the state on our side and want to be following the right steps. So it's my recommendation that we adjust course slightly, and instead of putting out an RFP for an operations project manager, that we adjust course and put out an RFP for an architecture firm. I shared this last night with the Facilities Study Committee. The Facilities Study Committee, who has a wide variety of expertise, sees the value of it, did vote to endorse that, and I'm just bringing it to you too. I would love and be able to answer any questions you have about this adjustment. But otherwise, I would love a vote and a understanding of the course adjustment we're making to hopefully retain the services of an architecture firm and not an OPM based on the advice that we received from the state.
Is there a list of state-approved vendors for this work, or is this, we're just going out to whoever?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's specific firms that you see all over that will
Oh,
do
yeah.
this. There's nobody that I know of, or that
Just
they've
sometimes
mentioned.
OPM has an approved list of vendors for different types of services. I wasn't sure if that's what this was.
They did not give us
They
one.
didn't
They
give
did tell the enrollment study people, they gave us a list of those people who are available, but the architecture firms, because there's so
Right.
many out there. It just depends on the size of the scope of the work, the size of the district, of who would respond.
Yeah, so I did include in your folder a copy of an RFP. Stephanie, again, did some great work. She borrowed this from Middletown, right? Tweaked it to match our purposes, and she also has shared it with the state and asked them for feedback. I don't know if you've gotten that feedback yet, but we've asked them for feedback on it. And again, assuming everybody's on board, we will post that pretty quickly and hopefully be able to unseal bids middle of November.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's
If
the
we
goal.
can get out by at least next week, we could fall within to the 15th, hopefully.
Right. We still have a little legwork to do, but the big idea is there.
Did we decide last night that lump sum was not the way to go, that we were going to?
Yeah, I have to adjust it because this got posted
We're gonna price
from,
out, so it
yeah.
won't be a lump sum. It'll be priced out for the three
Phases.
three phases.
Yeah, so if you notice, there's 3 phases in the scope. Last night it was discussed to, because at the end it said lump sum of the cost. I'm gonna just break it out and do by phase, so we get an idea of how much it'll be by phase.
Okay. So what are the phases?
Here.
Can you just, is it in the document?
Yeah.
Exhibit A.
I didn't know you had that.
And is the $200,000 earmarked for just this?
Yes.
And the facilities, in the enrollment studies?
Enrollment and ed spec.
Yeah, so the $200,000, the way we wrote the SSER3 grant is earmarked for what's called pre-referendum services, right? So all of the things we need to do to essentially develop a 5 to 10 year master plan for the district, right? And that's what we really need the guidance of an expert to come in and help us, design a plan with real numbers attached to it, both in terms of bonding rates, or if we decide to keep all 5 schools and renovate, just fix up the schools based on the sightline report, help us prioritize those out and give us a sense of what we need. I mean, what we know we need, if we keep 5 schools, is $28 million worth of work over the next 10 years, which, $28 million over 10 years is probably closer to what? 40? I don't know, by inflation, right? That's one of the considerations we have, and we need to put real money and real timelines and real approaches to that, or are there other things we can do? There's no lack of ideas we could kick around and look at, but what we have to do is take those ideas and put them to paper with real numbers attached to them, because we can't ballpark these things, right? I mean, we can't spitball this. We need to actually put together a real plan with the input of an expert, which is what the $200,000 will get us. Right.
We were told last night, though, that there's ample money in there, that this architectural firm coming in will not cost us $200,000. That they were saying that, one of the members of the committee said probably about $30,000 to $50,000 to have the pre-referendum work done by an architectural firm. Did I hear that correctly? So we
Yes.
would blow the whole $200,000 on the pre-referendum part. Also, refurbishing does not get us any money from the state. If we take the $28 million and put it into the schools, there's no money coming at us from the state. If we decide to do something different, the $28 million that we would spend would be matched with build to new. Is that correct?
Could be, yeah.
Could be.
All
those
yeah.
things are variables, but we want to do it in the way that it's going to be cost effective and also good for learning and for our students going forward.
And as you start to think about everything and unpack everything Meg just said, clearly the need for an expert who's done this to come in and help us do this the right way and make sure we dot i's and cross t's, and what we say we want to do is what we actually could accomplish. It's money well spent.
I'm sorry. So the, whatever proposals that you get in response to the RFP, how is the final architect or firm going to be chosen?
Excellent question. So what we'll publish the RFP. When the bids come in, we'll unseal them. We'll look at them with Tom, and then we're going to need to interview them. Likely, that would be a subcommittee of the Facilities Committee, and I'm looking at 2 individuals on that committee who I know would be interested in interviewing firms. There are rules about whether we have to take the lowest bidder or whether qualifications can help us pick the right person. So, we'll work with Tom and Stephanie and make sure we do this all transparently in the right way, and we'll have a group of people that will interview bidders and hopefully select a winner.
And I have to say about this committee, and even last night, again, it becomes more and more apparent that we've got a level of expertise on this facility study committee that I haven't seen before in a group coming together to work on something as significant and as important and as complicated as this. We've got a superintendent, we've got teachers, we've got a construction manager with a background in construction. the skill set is amazing, and we don't want it to be political, we want it to be straightforward, and we want to make the best choice possible, but we've got a level of expertise that is quite impressive.
Yeah,
That's
I'll,
great.
I'll agree to that, because one of the things they said was a lot of times these firms will bid low on the initial 3 phases in hopes of getting the bigger contract down the road. So we don't always necessarily want to take the lowest bid.
Okay. So is that something you're also looking for?
I'd like a vote for, you know, approval to put out an RFP for an architecture firm.
Yeah, I make a motion. Ooh, no, we're
Just
not.
for clarification purposes, in that, we've already approved
The OPM, yep.
the publishing of a RFP for an OPM, so do we need a motion to not do that?
I think if you could cleverly wordsmith that into a
Okay.
motion, that might be helpful, all right? So,
All right.
That's good.
I make a motion that we rescind our original plan for a, what was it?
Operations
OPM.
Project
An
Manager.
OPM, and instead move forward with the superintendent's presented plan for an RFP for an architectural firm to perform necessary work.
Okay, got it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Meg?
Meg? Okay, any other questions, comments? No? For here? No? Sounds good. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Super.
All right, the next 3 items on the agenda are going to be discussed in executive session. So we will move to old business. Not sure that we have any old business to talk about. I don't believe we do.
It's
All
blank.
right. Sorry?
It's blank, so it doesn't look like it.
All right, committee reports, curriculum,
Nothing new to report.
policy,
Nothing planned right now.
personnel, we'll see you in executive session.
Mhm.
Buildings and grounds,
Nothing to report.
conservation and renewable task force,
Nothing to report.
CREC liaison.
The meeting for CREC is tomorrow at 11:30 in Hartford.
Okay, selectmen,
Nothing significant to report.
committee on solidarity,
Yeah, they had a meeting on October 12th, and I attended. Laurel was there as well. Just a summary, they had a lot of discussion about events upcoming. They've got quite a few things they're planning over the coming, really they were looking right into next year, including some Pride events, another Juneteenth event, a cultural fair, a scavenger hunt, and survey, a youth forum and a survey. They're gonna create a subcommittee to talk about their survey, to try and kind of focus in on that and get more solid on that. And, let me see, what else? That was, I mean, that was really, they're getting themselves organized and moving forward with a lot of events. So I think it's worth taking a look at their minutes and their meetings to get up to date.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know if you were done. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that was good.
What's the survey going to be about, or is that what the?
They want to repeat, well, I don't really want to repeat, they want to do another survey, a piggyback on top of the survey they had done previously about, I think it's kind of like a cultural, it's kind of like the status of relations in Portland and things that people have concerns about or like to see differently or see more of or see less of. Laurel, maybe you could.
Yeah, that was my understanding. I don't know if anybody here filled out the first survey that went out, gosh, about a year ago. It was one of the first things that when they were formerly a task force, that was one of the first projects that they had kind of accomplished. They really got it out to a wide cross-section of Portland, and I think they're looking to follow up on that in kind of same vein as you mentioned.
Okay.
The only other thing I'd made note of is that they're considering trying to plan something for next October for National Coming Out Day, and we're excited about the idea of interfacing with students in our middle school and high school GSA. And I think members are going to be reaching out to the advisors of that group to kind of see if there's a way for that organization to partner with our student group, which is a nice idea.
Yeah, it is. Equity and Inclusion Coalition.
Well, we had a meeting today. Attendance seems to be down, which is something that was concerning to Eric, and probably to all of us. We talked more about the equity statement, the draft equity statement that was presented to the board. What was that, maybe 2 months ago? And we kind of piloted some focus group work. So the members of the coalition will be meeting with members of the community by November 8th and having 20 to 30-minute focus groups to discuss the draft equity statement and to get feedback on it. So it was pretty productive. Moving forward.
Yeah, if I could add, I was in the meeting tonight, but just because I don't think you made the last meeting, but
Correct.
This was a tremendously larger group than made the last meeting.
That's
There were
very-
only like 4 of us, and this was
Wow.
12 today,
Right.
so that was a nice turn of events, and like you said, we had some good discussion, and the road testing, it sounds like it'll be, I think you were gonna do road testing too, right? You were gonna get involved with the.
I am not going to be able to.
Oh, you're not?
test, no.
Okay. Eric recruited me to work with him
He
on
did,
some of
yes.
that, so. I was volunteered, I think you might say,
Voluntold,
which is
right?
good. It's a good opportunity.
Okay. School Facilities Study Committee, anything in addition to the RFP we already
No.
discussed? Okay. Great. All right, audience of citizens? All right. Member comments. We'll start with Laurel.
Sure. I had one thing that I wanted to mention. I had a conversation with several parents who were bringing concern to me about mask wearing and student behavior on buses, especially right now while our routes are so consolidated, that their kids are really packed onto buses, and parents are concerned that the driver is having to do too much, and that it's difficult for a driver to monitor mask usage and behavior for that many students. And so I guess I just wanted to bring that to the board, that there seems to be a number of parents really worried about that, and I don't know if there's any room for us to have a conversation about what it would look like to engage bus monitors, but if it's looking like we're going to have consolidated routes for quite some time, and safety is an issue on our buses right now, I'd like for us to address that.
Lauren, I'm sorry.
It's very interesting she brought that up. Laurel brought that up because I also have spoken to a couple of parents in the last week or two with very similar concerns, including the fact that with assigned seats, there are sometimes kids that have alternate bus routes and may or may not be on one bus, if they're going to mom's house or dad's house. And with the assigned seats, there are kids sitting 3, sometimes 4 to a seat, and then a seat could be open and they're not allowed to sit in it. So, yes. Yep. So there is some concern about too many kids on the buses. I actually was driving behind the bus going from Biz to Gildersleeve last week, and I watched a family of 2 boys get onto the bus. It took about 5 minutes, lots of traffic building up, and the 2 boys exited the bus. I wound up reaching out to the mom, and there was no room for her children on the bus. So concerning, and she said, I'm willing to take one for the team here. I can drive my kids to school. I work from home. I can do this. But, we all know the busing is an issue right now, but I don't know that everyone knows how severe the issue is. It's pretty bad. So, yeah. Echoing bus concerns.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that about busing? I'm wondering, we were told a new driver was going to be onboarded within a matter of weeks. Has that happened yet, or is that about to happen?
So we're back to 7 routes now?
We are back to 7 routes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's if everybody's healthy and,
Of course.
doesn't have medical appointments or sick or whatever. I mean,
Right.
On a good day.
Yep.
On a good day.
Okay.
I think that's the nexus of a little bit what we're going to talk about in executive session.
Got it.
So.
Chris? Any comments?
Sure, am I up?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, this is my last board meeting since it's the last one before the election. And I've been on this board for 8 years. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the citizens of Portland for trusting me twice to serve on this board and how much I've enjoyed learning about your ideas about the schools and listening to your input in all kinds of venues in town. So thank you to everyone who voted for me and who participates to make our schools great. Also, I just want to say thank you to all of you. We don't always agree on things, but I've really enjoyed working with all of you and sincerely believe that you all have the best interests of our students and our schools at heart. And of course, Dr. Britton and the other two superintendents with whom I worked, Dr. Sally Doyen and Dr. Philip O'Reilly, all three of whom were just wonderful leaders for our schools. And I really enjoyed the time I've had on the board. I'm particularly proud that in the 8 years I was here, the town passed the budget 7 out of 8 times that I was here, which is a pretty good record, especially, for baseball, I guess, right? The wonderful arts and music programs, and all the teachers that support them and all the academics here. This has just been a fantastic place for my kids who are now no longer in the Portland school systems, but are, both happy, healthy, and, well-adjusted academically and socially. And I think my wife and I really thank all of you and all the teachers in this community for supporting the wonderful schools in this town, and it's really been a great experience.
Thanks for your comments, Chris, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your service. We enjoyed having you as a member of the board, and we appreciate the sacrifices that you've made to participate and be here every meeting.
Great.
Mr. LaVoy?
Yeah, I want to, we hear a lot of comments about, supporting our teachers and supporting our nurses and supporting, and it's necessary and it's good that we do that. I want to acknowledge and thank Charles and his administrators for the work that they do every day, because it's just such a huge responsibility to run the school district. And through this period of COVID and through this period now where we're hoping and struggling to get to the next phase where we get even more normalized and everything, people are impatient, people are fed up, people are just saying the bus situation now, and Charles, it's just, I can't imagine the stress that you're under and what you're dealing with, and I just know, I want you to know I recognize, and I think a lot of people recognize what you're doing, and I think, when parents come to me or people complain to me in the community about they don't like this, they don't like that, I always encourage them to, bring that to their principal, bring that to their building, pass that up so that, that information comes to you through the normal chain of command so that you're able to do your role as an administrator and, listen and work with your staff on what needs to be done. And I just want you to know right now, I just think you're doing a fabulous job at that, and it's much appreciated, and I know the community appreciates that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Dave?
Something along the same lines as, I'm on the facilities committee, and I'm so excited to be on the committee, but I'm so more excited to see how enthusiastic Charles is to move this process forward. Sometimes superintendents, they're worried about the schools and the children and things like that, and the facilities are kind of like, I'll get to it when I get to it, but he's kind of said, no, I want to make this happen. So personally, I'm excited to hear that kind of enthusiasm.
Thanks, Meg?
A couple of things, and I agree with Tim and Dave, and I'm concerned about buses as well and squashing kids in like sardines. So hopefully we can figure out a better way. We'll discuss the transportation issue in executive session. But on another note, CABE sent out the resolutions for the next legislative year. And there's a delegate assembly on November 11th in Mystic, and there's a convention the following day. I was very proud to serve as the chairman of the resolution committee, and so I will be conducting that assembly for that portion of the delegate assembly. I don't know if anybody here wants to be a delegate or has signed up for the convention, but I hope that you'll let me tell you all about the wonderful things that we're doing. if you don't get a chance to go. The other thing you should know is that I am on the slate of candidates at CABE to be the Vice President of Government Relations, which will mean that we'll be more in tune with what's going on at the legislature and also at a federal level. And it's exciting and scary at the same time, but I feel that it brings us to a different level of understanding what our role as board members are, and also how our town fits into the larger scheme of things as we improve education across the state, and with an eye toward equity and diversity and inclusion and all the other good things that are happening. So stay tuned and take a look at the resolutions. Portland can be proud to have offered one up to the resolution committee about snow days. I think we were the only ones that thought about whether or not there would be remote learning. So that is also in the blue book that you received, you should have received from CABE. If you didn't, let me know and I'll make sure you get one. So more to come on that.
Is there anyone interested in being a delegate? The assembly is going to be on November 11th, which is Veterans Day, so it's a holiday.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon till about 5.
If so, you can let me know.
Meg, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah, good
Oh,
luck.
That's
thank
really
you.
exciting.
When's the
Well, it is exciting. It's a
Yeah.
little bit scary. It's
I'm
a little bit
sure.
intimidating, but.
But good for you. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's good for us because
Yeah.
it means that we get to know more
Yep.
about what's going on.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
love it.
That is great. Okay. Is there a motion to go into executive session for purposes of contract negotiations? And we will be inviting both Dr. Britton and Stephanie to join us.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations and bring Dr. Britton and Stephanie with us.
Second that.
Jen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Can we not sit, can I sit over there? and
Yes.
listen
Yeah,
to
let's
that?
do it. Let's do it. Executive session.
I want one of those.
Stand up.
Shake it out.
One person stuck on. Oh.
Kim.
Oh, it's Kim. Yeah. All right.
It's a good egg.
We are back in our regular session. Action items from our executive session. Is there a motion to ratify the CEA Portland Board of Education Bargaining Unit Agreement?
I'll make a motion that we ratify the CEA Portland bargaining agreement?
Board of
Board. So moved.
There's a second?
Yep, and we're gonna add in July
Yep.
1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. I'll
Sure.
second that motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Meg.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there a motion to ratify I'll make a motion to ratify the Portland Association of School Administrators Board of Education Bargaining Unit Agreement from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
There's no other action to be taken based on our executive session. I take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Lauren, all in favor?
9:38.
Okay.
Hey, thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Good.
everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
work.
And did you
All right.
second that motion
Yeah.
that Sharon made?
What's that?
So
You
I've
made-
got
you
these two
seconded the
dates.
motion that Sharon made.
Tuesday
I
the
did,
8th.
but you did
Okay.
too.
That's
so-
all right,
4
well,
p.m.
we'll put your name on it.
I wasn't gonna.